In this video, we're gonna go through a 5-minute, that's right, a 5-minute routine to unlock your standing forward fold mobility. So what you're gonna need for this is a dumbbell just to load up the stretches that we're gonna be doing, and also a yoga block will come in handy here as well for a few of the things that we're gonna do. So without further ado, let's make a start. So before we begin, just a few reasons why you'd want to unlock the Pike forward fold. Getting your hands flat to the floor and your knees to be locked out is not that it's just going to be a lot easier for you to do something as simple as tying your shoelaces and bending over, right? And not having this fear maybe in the back of your mind that you're going to pull a hamstring or pull something in your back, right? But it's going to have some really good translation over to athletic performance as well. If you can express this full range through your hamstrings, through your posterior chain here, right? And have this range, this ability to move into this position, right? This ability to hinge at the hips, right? It is going to have massive translation over to your athletic performance. Let's get started. So grabbing your dumbbell here, we're going to start off with something called a single leg good morning. You can load this one up in like a sort of goblet position, just like I'm doing now. We can actually turn it over like so. You're going to get into this staggered stance position, right? And we're just going to work into this hip hinging ability, right? But the main idea is we want to tap into this front leg, right? And get this good stretch into the hamstring and the calf. So we're going to start to hinge at the hip, get that good stretch, and then come back through by extending the hip, squeezing the glute through. So really try and shift that weight to the front leg side. Your feet are going to be pretty active in this position as well to help you balance. And you'll just work through reps here. So what I'm doing here as well, when I do a rep, is I'm squeezing my quad, right? Squeeze the quad, right? The hip flexor, start to activate into that agonist muscle, which is going to create even more stretch. So what we can do with the single leg good morning is we can do alternating steps like so. And the idea is I'm keeping my front leg straightened out so I get that big stretch into the hamstrings, right? I'm squeezing the glute to come through, so it's a hip hinging motion. It's like a deadlift. So you still want the hips to be thrusting through into hip extension, but you're just getting this little bit of stretch and range stretch stimulus. So then a really good way to start to think about how can you activate more into your agonist muscles. So, you know, if you're trying to develop that Pike forward fold, you need really good hip compression strength, right? So sitting on the floor, right, you can start off with one leg at a time, trying to lift the leg up, right? Going left and right marches. What I'm doing here is I'm squeezing quad, really trying to compress into hip flexor, and I'm pushing the floor away with my hands. You can come back like this, and this can be a good starting point for you as well, right? Just lifting up like so. How high can you get? Keeping the knee, the leg locked out like so. Once that feels easy, you just start to progress it by coming further and further in. How much can you compress here? And then what you want to start to do once you get the single legs rolling is go for the double leg variation, legs together. You can get that point, toe point happening as well, toe point, which will help actually to really contract into the quads and into the hip flexors, get everything sort of tensed up in this position. And you can just hit reps here, holding for like, 2 seconds each rep type of thing, right? This is going to help you to develop that agonist muscle activation. This is a great starting point. And then obviously, like we can start to work towards, like L-sit on the ground, trying to bring yourself up off the ground once the hip flexors, once the quads are getting a bit more stronger and the compression strength's getting a bit better there. So we've gone through a hip hinging pattern, the single leg good morning. You can do a Romanian deadlift if you like, just anything that's going to express that hip hinging ability, right? You'd be surprised at how many adults can't actually get really good hinging ability and extension through their hips as well. I truly do believe that, you know, a good hinge, if you have a really good hinge, right, a really strong hinge, then it can take you a long way with your athletic performance for sure, right? So get that right first, then yeah, developing that agonist muscle activation with like any type of hip compression, right? Leg lifts, even just like lifting like this, right? This is like, if you do this for long enough, the hip flexor is gonna start to wear out, right? And you're gonna start to feel it, that lower ab region. Just do that for reps. Going as high as possible. You can load that one up with the monkey foot, these types of things. So many different ways we can load this. Hanging from the bar, obviously doing the hanging leg raises, mint, so good. So then what you wanna do as well, the pretty much what I like to think is the best bang for buck for developing the forward fold is the Jefferson Curl, right? Probably seen it everywhere, done everywhere. You know, you can just start flat on the floor, hanging onto a dumbbell or barbell, whatever you want, any way to load it. I see a lot of people butcher this position. Well, not so much butcher, but there's different ways and variations to do it, right? The way I've sort of been taught and has good translation over to developing that forward fold position is articulating up and down the spine. So neck comes first. If we go through it, neck comes first. So chin towards the chest. Then I like to think about purposefully rounding my posture, right? Like this, into this spinal flexion, because that's what it's going to help develop here as well. Spinal flexion at the same time. Then I'm just going to slowly work down into this position like so. So slowly working down, up and down the spine. So you can hold this position. When I'm here in this position, I'm squeezing my quads, trying to compress hard here. And then I'm going to squeeze my glutes, hip extension to come back up. So remembering, it's just like a normal deadlift. You're going to be using your glutes, right, to contract into this position, right? Keep the lower back nice and protected, all this type of stuff, right? So if we go again, intentionally roll forward into this spinal flexion position, keep everything tucked in. Think about reaching down. This is the thing as well. A lot of people, when they do this, they're too tense in the upper body. You want the weight to drag you down, right? Just think about reaching, keep the lats loose, and then squeeze to come back up. You can do this if you want to get a bit more range in like a Zercher position, right? This is going to help you get a bit more range if you're not doing it from a height. So you can start to go from a height in this position as well, which is going to change things for sure. So again, same idea. And then come back up. And you just want to be holding that bottom position for 1 to 2 seconds, you know. Once you start to get a bit more accustomed to it and, you know, your stretch tolerance improves, then you can start to hang out in that bottom end range position for a bit longer. And then final thing that you can try out as well with the block, with your yoga block, you might not need the yoga block yet, right? Doing like a donkey calf raise. You can even load this position, right? But trying to come up all the way onto the balls of the feet, all the way up onto the toes nearly, right? And you're actively thinking about like compressing at the hip again, right? So you can bring the block a bit lower, right? And just working into this position. Try and keep the knees locked out, right? Until you can hit the floor. This position right here, like doing the calf raises, is definitely really good if you're working towards like a press to handstand and stuff like that. Really beneficial especially, right? But yeah, just something to create a bit more stimulus there in the calves, you know. Some other things that we can do with the block, you know, if we're doing the single leg good morning variation, going into this like more dorsiflexed position, right, which will create more stretch definitely in the calf region, right, and you get this more stretch into Your hamstrings might become a little bit like more nervy sensation as well when you go into this dorsiflex position. If you've like experienced sciatica before and like this nervy sensation, right, then you'll understand what I'm talking about. But yeah, just doing stuff like this with the foot in this dorsiflex position can change the stimulus as well. Doing it like with the Jefferson curl as well. You know, I've got a slant board actually. If you've got a slant board, the slant board is very useful for doing this type of stuff. Slant board, again, single leg like that, getting that stretch, but then going for the Jefferson curl type variation. And now like I'm getting way more calves involved there. Like I'm feeling it massively on the calves. Calves is, for myself anyway, like the more tighter region, right? And you might feel it differently for yourself. But yeah, that's like a different strategy again that you can apply to the trainings. Achieving world-class mobility is definitely possible in 5 minutes or less each day, but you just got to come into these sessions with full intention and focus. And that means picking the right movements to create the right amount of stimulus for the goal that you're trying to achieve, and also sticking to the timer as well. So applying methods like the dense method, this EMOM style method, where you're held accountable to the timer, right? So this is the way that you're gonna achieve this in less than 5 minutes. So yeah, again, pick 3 to 4 different exercises that are gonna help create that stimulus for you to achieve that pike forward fold position. If you stay consistent with this routine for, you know, a month, 2 months, 3 months, where you're gonna be, right? You're gonna be able to touch the floor. You're gonna be closer, at least, right? If you stay consistent, you know, you can do this. I'd recommend, you know, anywhere from 2 to 3 times a week, right? It's only 5 minutes of your time. Remember that as well. So you can do it. You can get it done before, after your session, as its own session. That's the power of this. So give it a go.